Hey, everybody, and welcome to another exciting, fun, and thrilling, yes, thrilling episode of Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready minded. Now, if you have been paying attention, you'll notice that these guys, Paris and Shane, and myself, we've been doing this for quite a while. Prepping is part of our life, uh, the living ready lifestyle. And our mission, we feel, is to help you get better prepared and to share the things that we've learned, the things that work really well, and the things that don't work to help you get a better sense of how to do things the right way. And if you really want more help with that than just listening to the podcast, make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel and in our Facebook group. You can find it by going to Prepper Talk Radio on Facebook. Bada bing, bada boom, click the little button that says join our group. It's emergency prep and self-reliance. That's where you need to be to get more in-depth help. That's where we also do lives from week to week, where you can actually ask questions and we'll spitball with you and help you put together a better plan for preparedness for you and your loved ones. But without further ado, I want to jump into the topic of the week, the topic of the show, which is really kind of the flying by the seat of your pants mentality most of us have in our careers. We get into a job or we start a business and we stay there and we work on things and we stay there. And then what do we do if we lose that? Or what if we do if they start saying, hey, you need to do things a certain way, or here's 10 times the workload and I'm going to keep you at the same pay? Like, are we going to just stay there and hope that it gets better? Or what are we going to do? That's kind of the topic of the day. I don't know if there's a better name for the topic, but it's career day here at Prepper Talk Radio.
That's one of the things I read a long time ago is a book called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And another really neat quote that goes along with that is that fix your roof before it rains. And what that means, or what they were kind of focused on, that means actually be applied to a lot of things. But I think what they were really moving forward with on that particular situation in that book was, if you're in a career right now that's not necessarily going anywhere, or maybe there's some layoffs looking on the horizon, or maybe there's some economic strugglings. Anybody hear about any economic strugglings out there anywhere?
Maybe a little rumblings here and there.
Right. And so if you're in a career, or if you're in a job, or if you're in a business that's a little nervous, now's the time to start looking for another job. You may not ever go and get another job, but you need to be ready for a couple reasons. One, if you get laid off, you already got something lined up. Two, if your boss asks you to do something that isn't congruent with your
Beliefs,
what you want to do, your desires in life, then you can say, look, I'm out. I got other options. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Be ready ahead of time so that if anything comes up, you can just walk and you can follow. That's what I want to say. If your boss is telling you to do something that isn't in alignment with your conscience, you can tell them, see ya, I'm out. I got other things. I got better things. I have options. Always have options. A ready-minded, self-reliant person always has options available and ready.
And I think that fits in perfectly with just regular old prepping, as we call it. Having your food storage, having the tools and preps that you need is if and when things go bad, you can say, I'm out. I'm good. Just like you're saying with with your employer. I mean, that's an awfully terrible spot. I mean, I've been there. I think we've all been there, where like, man, I need this job. I can't lose this job, and just to feel stuck, right? Mm-hmm. And not have any options. Whereas as prepper, that's our plan is to have as many options as possible, and to not plan for that in your job, in your career. You're absolutely right, Parrish. It's silly if you're not prepared that way as well.
What's funny, it's like you go to the books, the self-help books, all the Think and Grow Rich, the Zig Ziglars, they're always telling you, go to the job, do more, impress your boss, take on every additional responsibility without extra pay so that you can get that promotion. And what's funny is the generations that grew up on those books and that have been doing all that are the ones that are now telling us, who are the third round of people on those books, they're telling us, no, I'm going to give you double and triple and quadruple the workload, or half of what you used to make. And I need you to keep doing what you're doing, or here's 10 times more.
Yeah.
pay.
The
And
idea is,
that's what I'm seeing is everybody's complaining right now about how much more work they're being asked to do or told to do because of the whole great resignation we just went through.
yeah, it's,
Mhm.
again, it's about choice, right? I mean, when you get a new job and you want to make yourself valuable and want to move up in the company, I mean, that's obviously still, I think, the right choice is to step up and do as much as you can to show your value. But the end of the opposite, like you're saying, the opposite is happening right now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it depends, goes from job to job is different, but in my industry, that's absolutely what's happening.
Are you seeing that right
What's
now?
funny too
Yeah,
is like,
in upper management as well. Absolutely. And I think part of it is obviously is hiring is difficult. Hiring someone into our particular field is difficult. We have a pretty high turnaround. And so management then has to shoulder all these additional responsibilities that they're not getting paid for, and but is essential to my job, my career, and theirs as well. I can't explain that very well because without getting into too much detail about what I do, and nobody wants to hear that, it's too boring. But
oh, I don't know. I love hearing about the minutia. I'm a weird dude. Like I actually really I appreciate that because I've worked at places where you have way less resources to support your position
mhm,
than is necessary. And yet you're still expected to
to
outperform
do
the
it
numbers
anyway.
that they're giving you. And they're like,
Yeah.
why aren't you doing double and triple? Because I've been waiting for 6 months for you guys to get these numbers back to me
Mhm.
so that I could actually submit everything.
Didn't you have
Or
something like that
reverse,
at
you're just going to have to come up with it yourself. Why? That's not my job. You're the one that dictates what those numbers are. I can't do your job and my job. I'm not privy to the information. I don't have the funnel that you have, that the data or everything else. And it's funny because we're all expected to be able to figure it out and do it. But as a prepper, we live this way on everything. It's like, oh, well, I need to start growing a garden. Oh, I need to learn how to process chickens. Oh, like we go out and we learn and we do and we do. And it's like, that's where we're building wealth in our mind and knowledge and experience. Those are the things that create resilience. But in the workplace, in the workspace, when they're like, I need you to work 20 extra hours and not get paid for it. Yeah, no, because
Mhm.
that's into my time. That's into my wealth time.
Mhm.
Wealth time is my time. That's
Yeah.
why I have side hustles that I work on all the time. And right now I have no primary hustle. It kind of died, and that happens. And so it's kind of a perfect time to talk about this. Is like, I had a business, we were doing liquidation. We'd go and buy stuff at auction, turn it around and liquidate it. And we survived like fine for the last 4 years. Like, it wasn't roses and sunshine. We tried to grow it
Scale.
and tried to scale it, but we learned it was not scalable because we didn't have enough outlets to buy more stuff from at a reasonable price to be able to maintain our profit margin. And then the places that we do have now changed their entire pricing model, and we lost our margins completely. And we're like, how's anyone going to do this? And what we found is in the last 2 months, one of the last places we were buying from, they're now, we might start doing business again, but they're now cutting back. They're like, oh, we're changing our system back to the old way because we're not selling anything anymore. I'm like, well, duh.
Yeah.
You undercut
Oh,
you undercut the middleman, and the middleman's the one that does all the heavy lifting. And
mhm.
we have to be aware of that. Like in every career, in every industry, there's always people who do massive amounts of stuff that you don't really see what they're doing, and it affects so many positions. Like the middle management that actually manage people and manage teams, like they're so valuable if they're the right people. When
Mhm.
you take that away and you take that support staff away, and you're still supposed to do a job like a sales job, and you need data from them to be able to know how to bid or what to do, like you're crippled. You're crippling your sales force.
Mhm.
Or if it's like you have a tech team and they're all supposed to be able to take all these phone calls, and you roll out a new software update, and then you cut the tech team in half, their call volume's going to be double, triple, quadruple, and they can't keep up. And so now you have all these people who are using the software who are going to be pissed because they can't get help with their questions, or they're stuck and they can't reboot. And they need, like, those are the things we're seeing more and more and more and more happening right now.
The domino effect.
Mm-hmm. And it's like,
It's
okay, how do we really make ourselves resilient to that? And how do we protect ourselves from that so that it's not as I heard the fun, oh man, so it's not like a do or die moment. It's like I saw a clip. It's from a movie. I don't even know what movie it is. But the guy, he says, what you need is you need to get FU money. And it's he's like, the number is $2.5 million. I'm like, what? He's like, if I have $2.5 million, you go get a little, import car that's easy to run, easy to do things, easy to maintain. It's got some miles on it, nondescript. You go buy a middle American house in a nice little neighborhood, nothing extravagant, but it doesn't matter at that point who pisses you off, what happens, who you're working with, what you're doing. It doesn't matter, because you know what? You can walk away. You can always walk away and do something else because you've got the money. You're so resilient. You're so hardened. Your fortress is so big that screw everything else.
Yeah, you got that FU money. I love it.
Right. And he called it something else in the movie, but then Joe Rogan's always popping off of other stuff. And he's like, I can do whatever I want now because I have FU money. And I'm like, that's a good point. And I know guys that, like, I have a good buddy that I was in college with, who tech guy, and he went through so many different projects, and they finally got one that launched, went well, grew, got huge. They sold it, and he's like, I don't have to work ever again.
That's so cool.
So now what he does is he coaches other people on how to do their business, and mostly he's coaching college students and teenagers on how to launch successful businesses. And he's retired. And I'm like, cool. That's awesome.
I had a story to share about kind of going back or bouncing off of our masculinity. We had 2 podcasts ago, 218, I think, or maybe it was 217, where we talked about that can-do attitude, where if it can be done, we can do it. And knowing and recognizing that we can really do things. My wife, she worked as a court reporter for a courthouse in California. And I won't necessarily mention the city because anyways, she worked at a courthouse there, and the HR department was always honored that she was doing stuff. They were asking her to do little nitty gritty things. And she's like, look, I'm a grown woman. Why are you treating me like this? And she bore it because she felt like she had to be at that job for the health benefits. She felt like she had to be at that job for the retirement, for the dental, for the life, for all these benefits that, quote unquote, that we think that we have to have. And what's interesting is that she was making, I don't know, 50, 60 a year doing it. And she said, at one point, it was just too much. The HR department went too far, and she literally stood up and said, I quit. And they're like, I'm not even turning in my 2 weeks. I just quit. And she walked out of the office and she's like, what the heck did I just do? She came home and she's like, what the freak? I said, babe, high five, dude. Like, the more power to you. Like, if you don't deserve to be treated like that, you're a grown woman, you're a competent woman, you're an expert in your field. You don't need to be treated so nitty gritty. And I kid you not, within 6 months, she was making more money, and she makes more money, like a lot more money, now that she's gone independent. And the money that she makes, we buy our own benefits. We buy health insurance. Like, the money she makes is so much more. We can buy our own benefits and still have more. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the idea here is that don't get caught up in thinking that, oh no, I have to stay here because of the benefits, or I have to stay here because of this or that, or whatever your excuse is. More often than not, it's a trap that's holding you back and keeping you from really realizing your potential. And let it go. Get rid of it. It's not worth it in many cases. And this is something that you're going to have to really, I would personally say that you're going to have to pray. You're going to have to ask God, get direction from a divine source, counsel with your spouse, your significant other. I mean, do some good counseling and reasoning. And then if it's just not working out for you, bounce on that sucker, right?
Yeah.
And then start working on, and then go to my financial self-reliance page and join that YouTube channel so that I can teach you what to do with your money, so you invest it properly, so that you can have that FU money in the right place.
Right. Well, it's funny. It's like we all have these skills. We all have these abilities, and we get pigeonholed sometimes because of work. I mean, how many times do you talk to somebody and you're like, oh, what do you do? It's not about, tell me about yourself. It's, what do you do?
Yeah.
And it's like, what does it matter? What does that matter? How does that a definer of my character, or a major definer of who I am? It's like, What I do for work right now, I'm a professional athlete. According to what they tell me. According to what they tell me at work, I'm a professional athlete. I'm what's called a driver athlete. No, I'm not in NASCAR, but I work for a delivery service partner for Amazon. I deliver packages with little smiles on them to boys and girls all over the world. Sometimes they're little boys and girls, below 5. Most of the time they're between 20 and 80, and they're old and they're sitting at home waiting for that package to show up. And I'm the guy that runs from the van to their door, rings the doorbell, takes a picture of the package, and it gets emailed to them. And that's what I do because it's filling in the gap of what my businesses have lost lately, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, there's no shame in that,
No.
right? Because I'm putting food on the table still. There'd be shame if I'm not putting food on the table.
Yeah.
Is it what I envisioned for my life at this phase? No, I have an MBA. But you know what I've learned about that? Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I get stood up on so many job applications. It doesn't matter. What matters is don't stop. Just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking Dory from Finding Dory, from Just Keep Swimming,
Just keep
and
swimming.
Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming.
Mhm.
Keep moving. Keep working. Like, that's why preppers are so amazing to me, because we just keep working on having a better quality of life, meaning unplugging from systems, meaning like Shane's dream is so idyllic, right? Unplugging from the financial system, unplugging from using corporate power and greed and corruption and everything else
Mm-hmm.
to fuel my life, right? Getting to that point.
Yeah,
I've got babies. I've got
it's
different things I'm doing to make my life more favorable to me and to my future, just like Shane is, just like you are, Paris. Like, that's the thing that I find. Every prepper I meet has something that they're doing that is giving them that freedom feeling, and keeping that fuel and that fire going in life. And that's what's so valuable, is having that greater purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it's really about attitude, obviously. What I do have a bit of a conundrum that I wanted to ask you guys about what you think. Obviously, having an attitude of abundance is very important, right? However, if you are using that, I don't know if I'm going to explain this properly, but if you have an attitude of abundance, but you don't have those preps to back you up, like your MBA, like my food storage, I think that can get you into trouble. Excuse me, into trouble. And let me see if I can explain. Like Paris, like you said with your wife, she just quit, and she had that immediately thought, "What did I do?" And I think part of that is having that attitude of abundance. Like it's not just attitude as positivity, but believing that there is so much out there that you can do, that is available to you, that nothing is going to hold you back. Yet I see that hindering other individuals in my life, where they have this attitude of abundance, and it doesn't hold them back in their spending. It doesn't hold them back in other ways that actually hinder them. Does that make any sense? Am I making any sense there?
Yeah, they think they're so abundant that they go spend more than they should, because it's a never-ending.
And they feel like if they're not making the income now, they'll be making it later because they're such hard workers, and that's probably all true, right? But I think there's a bit of a danger of that abundance, of having that abundant attitude, but also danger not having an abundant attitude of abundance as well. Like the ability to say, I can make my way in whatever I do. I'm a sales guy. I work for a big corporate company, and there are some limits and some boundaries there that, I just have to conform. I don't like that word. I don't like that word. I don't like to conform, right? That is not me. And so I have to keep myself in this little box, yet still have that attitude of abundance. So it's kind of a clash, right? If I understand, if I'm explaining myself well enough here, it's kind of a clash between there's so much potential in this particular line of work I do, yet I'm still limited. Yet I do have the skill ability to do this on my own, but do I want to? Do I want to stay in this box? It's quite a conundrum for me, if you understand what I'm saying. But I see these individuals with this attitude of abundance, and I really envy that. Yet I'm in my own little box and just kind of, I don't want to say I'm doing the quiet quitting thing, right? Because I'm not, but there is a point where I can get away with a lot, right? Of not doing more than I have to.
I think
And
it's
so,
important. I was just going to say, I think it's important for people to realize that if you have the skill sets, that your value as an individual in the marketplace, at least in capitalistic societies, your value is what you can bring to the marketplace. What is your
Yeah.
skill set? What is your knowledge? Now, your value as a divine worth as an individual in the sight of God is different. Than that's not what we're talking about. But if you have a skill set that you can bring to the marketplace that's going to provide for your family financially, you can have more of abundance, recognizing and knowing that, okay, you're right now I'm renting my time out, so to speak, to this particular employer. And if they cancel that contract, I'll just move on to the next one, because there's all that abundant, your skill sets are sufficient that you'll always find some way to be gainfully employed or do your own thing. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Some people want to be an intrapreneur, where they're just going for it within a company, and that's totally legit. Either way you go, just whatever you do, be the guy that's going to bring value to the company or bring value to the marketplace, whatever you're doing. Be a person of value. However, don't get so caught up in that and cocky, so to speak,
exactly,
that you spend. I'm going to make my value to the marketplace is $100,000 a year. Boy, I'm going to spend $100,000 a year. Well, you just shot yourself in the foot, because no matter how good you are, there's going to be a time frame between, and you got to have money set aside for emergencies for that.
Or there's no way I'm ever going to get, they're not going to fire me. I'm too valuable, right?
Yeah. Or an emergency happens where maybe a health emergency happens and you can't work. You got to have things in place. You got to have things like life insurance. You got to have things like health insurance. You got to have things like savings. You got to have those types of things. And so I get what you're saying, Shane, is that I think that may not be exactly what you're saying, but I think it's on the same lines of what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Have enough abundance that you realize you can make the money, but have enough constraint to realize you still need to save money and still be wise and have your food storage and water storage and your financial storage, and be prepared at the same time.
I think wise is the right word to use there, is that being realistic and having a good head on your shoulders to say, you know what, if I had 2.5, then I wouldn't worry about any of this stuff. Right. But also knowing that limit to where, okay, what if, right? And prepping is all about planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And exactly. I think the same is with your work, with your job, with your career, whatever you want to call it. I prefer not to call my work a career. I just call it a job. But and I would say it's a good portion of my life, obviously, right? Just for like any of us, unfortunately. But plan, and I find that difficult for me to plan. Okay, what would I do if this happened in my work? And so that's definitely my weak point. I've gotten to a comfort point to where, like, I'm never going to get fired. I'm valuable. I prove I'm a veteran in my company. But I can see some possibilities in my industry of what might happen if, say, what if like right now, the diesel shortage, my particular industry requires a lot of, it basically is based in petroleum. And if that goes south, what happens to me? What happens to my work? I will still have a job, but would I be able to sell anything? Right.
Commissions will go way up because it'll be harder to sell something that is in short demand. Right.
Exactly. Who knows? Maybe that's,
but it'll be less time between sales, probably.
Yeah. Maybe I can't deliver. So those are the scenarios I'm running through in my mind. I need to put them on paper. Say, okay, what if then? Yeah. What do I do specific to what I'm good at the moment?
I think that's perfect. I think the takeaway for today is this: like, wrapping up everything that we've all said. Take some paper and pen or pencil, and I want you to write out. You, the listener, I want you to write out, what are my top 5 most transferable skills? Skills that apply across the board, that I use at work, that I use at home, that I use somewhere else, like wherever else. What are my top 5 most transferable skills?
I'm writing down my homework, Scott.
I want you to do that because then that'll open up. If you start looking for things in those areas, you'll find there's a lot more you can do than you realize. And you also find some things that you might realize it doesn't quite align with your passions, and maybe something else does. Look for some things. Just go look and see what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have been thinking and you've been sitting on an idea of a business that you want to run, it doesn't have to be full time. You can start things part time. Do those two things. Consider that. But number one, first and foremost, write down your top 5 most transferable skills and see what you can do in your spare time to create a more resilient lifestyle for your family, utilizing those transferable skills. For example, if you're a contractor and you're really good at framing, take that transferable skill and maybe start making chicken coops and selling them on the side.
Yeah, I think additionally, what
$300-400 on a coop, profit. That's just a simple one, right? Like there's so many different things. Maybe you're fantastic at sewing. Maybe you're fantastic at negotiating. You know how many people would love to have a consultant come help them negotiate things, and you can do that part time and add to your income. Like there's so many different things that you can do to provide alternate income for your family, additional income for your family, or chart a new course. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to build a second or third or fourth level of financial fortress around your family. And more important than any of that, make sure you're building your family a home store of food and emergency supplies and all the other things that you need, extra underwear, extra socks, the things that you need in surplus when things do go sideways. Because guess what? It doesn't have to be a pandemic to throw things sideways. It could be job loss. It doesn't have to be job loss or a pandemic. It could be a financial crisis. Like there could be real world issues and events. We've all seen it in the last couple of years that can cause those changes. So put things in place to create resilience. Go do your homework on your 5 transferable skills and always stay ready. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube because we're giving away a Jase Medical kit once we break 1,000 followers there. But you've also got to be in our group. So go join the group. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.